It's Matt Bennett, Channel Seed grain marketing consultant, and I'm here today. A couple weeks ago, we were with Whitney Monin from Kentucky. Today, we're with Joe Bunck from Everest, Kansas. He's a TA there, and he's got a big territory. And so, Joe, I'd just like for you to describe your territory, first of all, and then what you're seeing in your territory.
Thanks, Matt. It's good to see you again. I work in the eastern 1/3 of Kansas and the western half of Missouri and the state of Oklahoma. So north to south, they go from the Iowa line clear down to the Red River in some cases. I've got a significant number of fields in my climate account from having trials across that geography over the years. And if we look at the rainfall pattern, they're about 10 to 12 inches ahead for the year. That's since the 1st of January down in southeast Kansas, and about 5.5, 6 inches behind up here at the Iowa line. And the planting progress pretty well mirrors that rainfall distribution. You get north of I-70. I-70 is about the average for the year, and you get north of there, why the crop is in. The corn is in for sure. Soybeans are coming along nicely. In some cases, some counties are about done. And you get south of there, there's still some crop to plant. I think the crop that's up looks good. Now, we've been cold. It's not as far along as it should be, but the stands are good. I know the guys in northwest Missouri want rainfall to get a little, they're kind of begging for rain. I don't know that will affect yield as much, Matt, but it'll sure correct the errors of the week. If it rained on Saturday, it'd help out all those mistakes you made the other days of the week. So I think it's really the demand for rainfall now. But like I say, I think it looks pretty good. And the fact that last year we struggled to get the crop in, I think in southeast Kansas, those guys realize they can plant corn late and still get by with it. And they're still intending to plant corn, even though it's getting somewhat late in that area.
Right. And so, obviously quite a bit of disparity with rainfall. I continue to hear from people, I discussed this with you a little bit yesterday, in parts of Iowa, Nebraska, and Kansas that are excessively dry. Now, as we also talked about, you kind of want a dry spring, to get the crop going. But in my vantage point, Central Illinois, we were dry early, ground worked like a dream. And then we turned off excessively wet. And so I talked about in my newsletter over the weekend, which I wrote on Saturday morning, I was super thrilled because we'd missed all the rains to that point, and then we ended up with about 3 inches of rain. And so, we're not hurting for moisture in this part of the world. I would almost rather be in those areas that are a little bit drier rather than the areas that are a little bit wetter. So, as you look at your territory, obviously compared to last year, I assume we can all say most territories are better off than what they were a year ago. But, what do you think as far as, your average customer, average people that you work with, as far as yield potential looks like with the kind of spring that we've gotten started with?
Well, I think, again, as we go south of I-70 and get down in southeast Kansas, southwest Missouri, there's a few producers down there that put some crop in, put corn crop in. Beans won't go in yet down there. But I think what's in looks pretty good. We've had some bigger rains. I think, though, and there's not a lot of acres that will affect the market, that geography anyway. But as you come north, the crop is planted, the stands are good. Our replants are limited. We haven't seen very many, and I would expect and I like a dry May. Like I said, I don't think you can be short of rain in May to affect the corn crop or soybean crop. Might if you have wheat. As you go west of me, the wheat crop starts. We don't have any wheat in my area of any consequence.
Right.
And so I think the prospects look good, honestly. I don't see that we're a little bit behind, but we'll catch up quick when the sun comes out. I'm convinced of that.
Right. And so do you have any producers in your area that weren't able to get in that would be pushing up on insurance date at any point in time? I know north of you, that might be more the case, but is there anybody in your territory? Because I know last year, Prevent Plant, people tried to push acreage as much as what they could. And then, they ended up having to take some Prevent Plant, but it ended up being a pretty good situation because of the price. This year is a little bit different circumstance in that they may as well just go ahead and take Prevent Plant as to go ahead and put more money out there. That's what the argument's been, you know. I mean, do you have anybody in that situation?
I do not. Like I said, there might be a producer or two in extreme southeast Kansas in that situation, but most of these guys will go ahead and put soybeans in down there, switch to soybeans, and take insurance on that crop. We'll bump up against the insurance state in southeast Kansas, but only on some limited acres. And north of here, everybody's in good shape. I don't see a lot of prevent plant, even in the river bottoms. The river's kind of stayed within its banks here in the Missouri River, and the crop is in. So.
The interesting thing is for us, for me and east, you're starting to hear about a lot of folks that's got rivers out. And so, you know, the last thing that we do every year is we plant beans in river bottoms. We used to plant corn in the river bottoms, but my dad gave up on that about 6 or 7 years ago. With that being said, 2018, we had, I think, 6th year in a row of soybeans, and we planted some 3.7s, I think, that made 75 bushel. So, you know, if managed right, I think you can get along with it. But, you know, so we talked about some of the issues that you're talking to folks about, that I'm talking to folks about. Obviously, pricing is one of those. And I know that you'd mentioned, you know, it seemed like a general feel that there's a fair amount of old corn out there. Do you think that that might be one of the bigger things on your producers' minds once they get out past spring planting?
Well, I think that's absolutely right, Matt. You know, when they're planning, that's what they focus on. Even if we had a rally and guys are planning, and I know with your newsletter, you recommended, you know, make sure you're paying attention. If you have to stop the tractor for a few minutes, make a phone call to sell some grain in the rally, let's get it done. We were waiting this time last year for $5 corn, and we were convinced with the acreage loss that we had in prevent plant, we'd see it. And so we just sat on that grain and didn't sell it. And then we harvested it. It was $4 in some cases, but out here in the West, we couldn't get $4 at harvest time. And that grain's still sitting in the bin, and at least a significant amount of it is, I think. Now, what percent that is, I don't know. I know here at home, we probably have 30 to 40% of it still unpriced. And we sold some $4 corn, you know, back in the summer to deliver during the winter months, and we sold some back in harvest time to deliver in the winter months. They were paying for the carry, and so we sold some $4 corn. But there's a significant amount of it set in grain bins, I'm convinced, and it's going to come out in late summer. We don't see a premium for corn in the cash market down here at the terminals in Atchison for August or September, because I'm convinced they know that corn is there. And so, yeah, I think what's going to end up, to be honest about it, is this crop's going to look good. Corn's going to stay in that 320, 330 cash market, and we're just going to need the money come August and get rid of it, because we're going to need the space come fall.
Right. And so I think that's one distinction for those that don't know you. You farm, you're involved with a family farm as well. So it's very similar to me in that you can speak with a little bit of conviction with some of these things, because the good and bad decisions alike, you know, I get we can identify with what's going on with the producer from that vantage point. But, you know, another thing I think that I want to bring up, though, and I know that this is brand new, but, you know, USDA came out yesterday with a new program. And so basically what it is, it's focused on the 2019. I've done a lot of research on this. There's some conflicting reports on what exactly is going on, but essentially the producers that did get everything priced and didn't have any inventory by January 15th, it doesn't appear that they're going to get a payment. Now, I don't want to say this with absolute certainty, because quite frankly, what the USDA came out with, you know, there on Tuesday was one of the more confusing reports I think I've ever seen as far as, you know, how this was going to work. So I would encourage everyone, please talk to your FSA offices. You know, look into, for instance, WIP Plus. I don't know if you guys have had any experience with WIP Plus out there, but WIP Plus is another FSA program that is based on 2019, and it's based on actual yields. They work with your insurance situation as well. But, you know, obviously there's been SBA loans, there's been all kinds of things. But I think whenever profit margins are this tight, man, we have to be as proactive as we possibly can, given the fact that there's just not a lot of skin on the bone right now and meat on the bone. And we want to make sure that we're paying very close attention. But by all means, let's encourage everyone that we can to make sure they know what's going on with this FSA situation that we've got coming up. So, Joe, if anybody wants to get a hold of you, ask any questions, what's the best way they can reach out and contact you?
They could get a hold of me by email. I work out of my office in my house, answer email every day.
Okay, absolutely. And we really appreciate you being on with us and give us an update of what's going on in your territory. Just talking about some of the things on the producers' minds that you have interaction with. Next week, we'll have Larry Adams on again, and we'll be going over markets as well as some of the agronomic situations we're seeing. But you can always get a hold of me. Twitter's been the preferred method, I think, for most folks. So at Chief321, shoot me a direct message if you want to. But again, this has been Matt Bennett, grain marketing consultant with Channel Seeds. And thanks for being with us this week, Joe.
Thanks, Matt. Good to see you again.